Welcome back to today's issues. This is part 2 of our intriguing conversation with our friends from Father's Support Center. Our guests, our CEO of Father Support Center, Halbert Sullivan. Welcome back.
And thank you for having us again, Christy. We appreciate the opportunity.
Attorney Lisl Williams, thank you for joining us again.
Thank you, Christy, for having us back.
And Dr. Jeffrey Johnson, President and CEO of the National Partnership for Community Leadership out of Washington, D.C. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here.
I want to get right to it because at the end of last week's show, we started talking about the role of women in this training of responsible fathers. You call it getting their dosages, which is a series of consistent exposure to training and empowering subject matter that really impacts the father's ability to get the fullest benefit. But with that being said, with potential issues with babies' mothers, do you think that men tend to receive this information or these dosages better from other men?
They receive it better from men, in my opinion, based on one man knows what another man knows. They relate to one another a whole lot better. And I'm going to say something else, and I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Johnson. A lot of folks don't like to look at the fact that in the sexes, there's a distraction that goes on in the sexes. And I want my guys to concentrate on those 32 dosages versus, oh, man, she's looking at me. She liked me. I'm going to have to say something to her. Well, that's a reality. In our professional careers, in our workplaces, we don't like to want to say that that's what occurred. You're supposed to be a professional in this environment, but that's what actually occurs.
Okay.
And so we want our guys to be more focused in on those 32 dosages than trying to flirt with that female facilitator. Dr. Johnson may have some different view on that, but we do believe that it's better received when a man brings you man issues.
Okay, so Dr. Johnson, what say you?
I would just say that I would agree, and I would say that the history of men, however, is that in our human service and social services field, it has been a field that's traditionally dominated by women. And so I think that this is not a disempowerment of women's movement, all right? It's not about that. And what we found is that in those cases where women have worked with fathers, the key trait is that the fathers care about them. I mean, that they care about the fathers. And if they can exhibit that care, they can talk to those men. And so that would be what I would say that would be slightly different from what Halbert said. But I do think that there is a dialect of gender. You know what I mean? We hear it in TV commercials, man law, all right? And men know how to communicate in that dialect of gender, and it's just something about being able to open up to men, since this is the community that you're looking for affirmation from, and so that becomes a critical aspect of what we do. I think that one of the real contributions that the Father Support Center has brought to this whole field of human social services is the fact that men need to be going into this work. This is a field of practice, social work, and being, these type of providers has not been something that has generally attracted men. By having now a focus on men and having men actually being involved in the delivery system is a good thing. And it creates more job opportunities and also allows us to connect with clients in a more broader way.
Okay, so now I want to move to Lisl King Williams, who is a graduate of the Northwestern University School of Law and the J.L. Kellogg Graduate School of Management, because I know that being a part of a child's life is being present in that child's life. And I know that there are a lot of barriers as it pertains to visitation, relationships with the mother, legal relationships with the mother. So I want to kind of go to that area now. Talk to me about what you have seen in your many years of practice and also in your support of Father Support Center at the legal clinic. What has been the primary barrier for men as it pertains to legal issues?
Primarily, as you can see, the agency, the whole concept of responsible fatherhood is wonderful. The agency does an excellent job of changing mindsets and bringing fathers into that responsible fatherhood phase. But at the end of the day, if the mother, for whatever reason, refuses him access to his child, he has no recourse except to go to the courts. And that's where the legal clinic steps in. We've served over 1,100 non-custodial fathers since we opened our doors in July of 2009. 30% of them were actual cases that we either took to the administrative level or in the courts. In addition, we have provided services to over 1,000 gentlemen who were in the Responsible Fatherhood program, classes 72 through 100. And what I will see fathers come in who say, I want to be in my kid's life, but she won't let me. She will not let me. So we do a comprehensive intake with the father to get the specific facts and circumstances. And one of the important things about that intake is not only being able to explain to him what the issues are and how we should proceed legally to get him where he wants to be, but also to explain to him what the issues are not. There are a lot of what I call isms that float in the population. I heard a guy in prison say this, my cousin said this, and they're just all over the place. And what that will do, that will lead to frustration about something you can't change. And so we want to focus them on the things that they can change legally. One of a really, really significant barrier is this whole concept of this default paternity judgment that in essence, dad is not represented in court. He doesn't even know about the paternity action in the first place. And he'll take a default judgment, but all that creates is you're the dad and you have to pay X amount of child support. There is nothing that, talks about visitation or access to the child. And unfortunately, we have had gentlemen who have been the subject of these default judgments and have not had access to the kid, but have paid child support, have gone into financial ruin as a result of the child support, only to find out 10, 15 years later they were never the dad in the first place. And there is no recourse. Mom, so what? The agency was successful in bringing the non-paternity statute into the legislation in the state of Missouri in August of 2009. And what it did was it opened a window of opportunity through December the 31st of 2011 where anybody could challenge the paternity based upon the DNA testing. Beginning January the 1st of 2012, you have a 2-year window from either the establishment of the paternity judgment or the establishment of the child support order. And typically the child support order is second. So the child support and the default judgment has been a big problem. And as you may or may not know, Missouri is one of those states that can charge failure to pay your child support as a Class D felony. So you will have gentlemen who have clean records other than maybe a traffic ticket or something like that. And, it's tight job market.
Yes.
A very, very tight job market. They could have been a CDL truck driver, 4 years ago, making $60,000, $70,000 a year. That's what the child support was based upon at that time. And now he's lost his job. And he either can't find a job, or if he finds a job, it's at minimum wage. Well, the child support does not automatically change. And if he's gotten into a situation where he's at least 12 months behind, that rises to the level of a Class D felony. And for your audience out there, typical Class D felony is a UUW, unlawful use of a weapon. And even though this is a completely nonviolent crime, a person can get the felony hit on their record, and they are subject to 4 years in the Department of Corrections in prison.
So I understand that, in the many years that you've been working in the legal clinic at Father Support Center, that you have been very, very successful with, one, sharing this wisdom and knowledge with the fathers that come into the program. Because if you can get the information to them and they understand it and it reduces the scariness or the fear. I know one of the things that Halbert said before we got into the program is that child enforcement is not the enemy. The law system, the legal system is not necessarily the enemy. It is the lack of knowledge and the wherewithal to be able to function properly within it.
Exactly. You have to be able to embrace child support enforcement and embrace the legal system. But nevertheless, it is a complicated system.
It is.
And for our particular population, you have people who their typical interaction with the court of law is a judge sending them to jail or prison. So they're very, very scared. They're very, very hesitant to do this. And they have a tendency to kind of ignore child support like it's the bill from Ameren UE. And that's one of the things that we try to get across to them. Respond, respond, and deal with this ahead of time. It's not going to go away. It's just going to get worse.
What about your thoughts on whether or not this information is best received by men?
My staff, we're all women. It's
Yes.
myself.
Oh,
There's
okay.
another part-time attorney who's a female. My paralegal is a female. My administrative assistant is a female.
Females taking over.
We've had great
We knew that
great
already.
interactions with the guys. I've had gentlemen say to me, Miss King or Miss Williams, the best people in my life, or most important people in my life, are my child and you, because we are an advocate for them and we listen to what they have to say. And a lot of times that is the first time in their entire process with child support and everything that someone is sitting there listening to what it is they have to say. And that's very, very important to them.
Christy, I want to interject something, because when your audience hears Lisl and the successes that she's had,
Yes.
I don't want there to be any misunderstanding. At the Father Support Center, the legal clinic, we charge fees for our services as well. However, our fees oftentimes are around half, would you say, Lisa?
Significantly lower than private practice fees.
Yes. And really, how can you put a price on that peace of mind and not having that albatross of being locked into a situation that, you're not supposed to be there? I mean, I can't even imagine having that fear of going to jail and having a federal offense because I couldn't get a job. I'm sorry. So, and it all goes back to what we were talking about in the first program, how a man's manhood is really tied to being able to be the provider of the family.
That's right. And what this work is all about, it's about, creating a positive future for our children, with parents being really at the helm of that and making both parents responsible for being private resources to our children. But I think the more important point on this legal matter, we want to make these fathers taxpayers, not tax burdens. All right?
Or
Because
not under the ground.
you see,
Right.
You see, because when the law allows for, and it's about teaching fathers how to be proactive to it, so and to be able to respond to it in such a way that they don't get caught up in all the complications. And I think that the legal advice that they're getting at the Father Support Center allows them to be able to really navigate that situation to the extent to which they can. But when they can't, then they have a legal advocate and a legal person who can really help them go in and get get visitation access when they really desire it.
Does Lisl have a moment to share some of her successes, some of the things that she's been successful in getting done?
Absolutely. Please do.
One of my biggest successes was we appealed a trial court decision under the non-paternity statute to the appellate court, the Eastern District, and we were successful. Because, see, under the non-paternity statute, if the court vacates or overturns the paternity judgment, it says that all that past due child support, the arrears plus the child support going forward, goes away. If you took a felony hit for criminal non-support, record gets expunged.
Wow.
Well, in this particular instance, dad was the father of one child and not the father of the other child. And the state said, well, this is a general order, so it has no impact on the case. And we successfully argued to the appellate court that it did. We also have been working with the 22nd Judicial Circuit, which is the city of St. Louis, on the civil contempt docket. We have implemented a child support court pursuant to a grant with the Domestics Resolution Fund. And the purpose of the child support court, which again is something that emanated from legislation that the agency had passed in August of 2009, it takes a holistic kind of drug rehab approach to the failure of not paying your child support. And it could be, like it usually is, I don't have a job. I can't get a job. I don't know how to use the computer. And as you know, the job search process is completely different now than it was even 5 years ago. And so it takes this holistic approach, teaming the defendant up with social services and the Responsible Fatherhood program to, examine the reasons why you are not or you cannot pay this child support and to correct the situation, to make make you financially responsible, bring you back into your child's life so that it is a win-win situation for taxpayers. We are not covering the cost of incarceration. It's a win-win situation for the child. I have my father back in my life. It's a win-win situation for the custodial mother, custodial parent. I am getting, financial assistance from the father of my children.
And not to mention just the long-term impact on the personhood of the people that are involved. I'm talking from the children to the father to the mother, building of the relationship and bringing the family along that path as well. The growth of it is really, really impressive.
That's it.
Wow. Congratulations on the significant work and successes you're having on behalf of children who want and deserve to have their responsible fathers in their lives, and for helping those fathers face what is often a daunting task, maneuvering through the legal system. And this is what it really is all about. And this is why they do what they do and you do what you do at Father Support Center. I'm so glad Attorney Lisl King Williams is here for many reasons. One, because I really want to ask you about how women can often be misguided and possibly get it wrong when it comes to helping men become responsible fathers. So I'll ask you that next on Today's Issues. Come back. Welcome back to Today's Issues. We're having a conversation about the challenge of absent or non-involved fathers in our community. My guests are associated with the Father Support Center here in St. Louis. We have attorney Lisl King Williams and Halbert Sullivan, who is the CEO of the organization. Also visiting us all the way from Washington, D.C., Dr. Jeffrey Johnson, who works in partnership with the Father Support Center and one of the leading experts on this subject matter. So, Attorney Williams, what about a mother's role in making sure that the fathers are present in their children's lives? Women often think that they're right when often they aren't.
As I explain it, it goes along a bell-shaped curve. There are people to the right of the curve that are extremely good or bad, people to the left of the curve, but most people fall into the middle. And I think what women really need to understand and embrace really is the importance of the father in the child's life, and to separate that personal animosity between you and dad for the sake of your children. And Mr. Sullivan said something earlier that rang so true on the previous program about the importance of the men in the little girl's life. I am the mother of 4, and I'm also divorced and remarried. And I was watching Ilana Van Zandt, and she said, dads are so important to the girls because it teaches them how to have an intimate, non-sexual relationship with a man. And I thought about it, and my dad's been deceased for many, many years. Who else can you snuggle up to?
Yeah.
Daddy.
Aww.
Whose lap can you sit on and kiss all over him? Daddy. And I would really like to see the women be more cognizant, more aware, and embrace that concept of that it truly, truly does make a difference in the child's life to have the father there.
Halbert?
And when we speak to the young lady, father also helps her understand what to look for in her mate. We're still a product of Sigmund Freud. The young girls will look to choose a mate that is similar to their dad, and the young men look to choose something that's similar to their mom. And so dads can help a young lady to understand. And not to mention, you cannot bring those pants falling down in daddy's house.
Right. Let me say this. Let me tell you what pregnancy prevention was for in my house with my daughter.
A nickel between the knees? I'm sorry.
When she was 11 and 12 years old, and she's getting those calls, from them little boys at school. Y'all know when y'all start getting those calls, all right? I used to ask very directly, who is it, all right? And she said, it's Johnny. I said, well, Johnny, is it about homework? And I said, no, hang the phone up.
Simple as that.
Hey! All right? And let me tell you something. And that's a very, positive thing, you know what I mean? Because what you're letting her know and sending a message, look, It's not time yet. You know what I mean? That's daddy's call. And it's interesting. Men have a different take on women than women have on men. For example, if my wife were to refer to my daughter about men, she may be talking about her brother, her dad, and she may be talking from the perspective of men who pursued her.
Yes.
I want you to think about that for a moment. Mm-hmm. When I talk to my daughter about men, I'm talking about it from the standpoint of a pursuer.
Yeah.
That's a whole different conversation.
Yes, it is.
All right? And so when I say hang up the phone, daddy means hang up the phone. All right?
Okay.
And she's a daddy's girl.
Oh, that's great. I just love this conversation, and we're running so short on time. So I think, Halbert, we're going to have you come back yet again. And in this and our previous conversation, we have had specific discussions about, responsible fatherhood as it pertains to the African-American community, such as the impact of the social welfare programs on the Black family unit, perceived and real barriers in the legal system, and its true impact within the African-American community. But I really want to be clear that this issue of absent and or non-involved fathers crosses all racial lines and all economic levels, and really seems to be an issue that is growing. So, Halbert, how are you addressing this growth?
Well, I thank you for asking the question, because that's one of the reasons that we're here today, to get the message out. In America, there are about 24 million children growing up without their dads, and only about a third of those children are African American. Where are the others? And where are those dads? Our programs are not, we're colorblind. We provide our services to any father that walks through the door. When we were located on the south side, I've had Bosnian fathers to come in and receive service. I've had Africans to come in, Hispanics to come in, and Asian. When the Asian dad came in, that was truly a surprise for us. But our doors are open to all dads, because it is a societal situation that we're attempting to deal with. So we open the doors for all dads to come in. We're located at 4411 North Newstead, St. Louis, Missouri. We also have a location down at Market Street, right across the street from Wells Fargo. And we have a location out west on Plymouth Avenue. The phone number for Father Support Center is 314-333-4170. And you can also hit us up on our website. We're also on Facebook. The website is fathersupportcenter.org.
That's right, fathersupportcenter.org. Did you want to add anything else?
No, I would just want to say that, the Father Support Center's doors is open to everybody, and it's not just for poor dads, it's for any dad seeking service. What they do is come down to the Father Support Center, inquire about the services, and anybody who shows up, they're going to be served.
And I also want to put this thought out there. If you are a corporation who strongly believes in family and responsible fatherhood, please consider making Father Support Center one of your primary community outreach recipients. If you have a family trust or a foundation and responsible fatherhood ranks really high on your family's beliefs and values, think about supporting Father Support Center. If you are an individual who would like to donate, maybe volunteer, or just learn more about their programs and services, visit them on the web at fathersupportcenter.org. That's fathersupportcenter.org. And I just want to thank all of my guests for being here today. Attorney Lisl King-Williams, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Christy.
And Dr. Jeffrey Johnson, thank you for taking a moment out of your busy schedule to join us and share a lot of your wisdom with us.
And thank you, and God's blessings to the community of St. Louis, Missouri.
Thank you. And CEO of Father Support Center, Mr. Halbert Sullivan. It's good to see you as always. And of course, you're coming back, right?
We are coming back, Christy. Again, I thank you for this opportunity. And you're correct. It is so good to see you again. And thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. But when we come back, we're going to have a special report